scheduled impromptu evening sword talk. Because I do that. Because keeping myself to a schedule is all but impossible. But we're here for about an hour. I'm going to try to actually keep myself to an hour this time. I'm trying to not go over because I'd still like to go do some other stuff before I go to bed. So we will aim to stop this at 10 o'clock. Okay, maybe a little bit past 10 because we technically haven't started at 9. I got sidetracked on the way there. That's how it goes. But we'll be here, and I will see what comes in. Let's see. I also need to fix my chat feed to show me stuff that comes in. There we go. What am I going to be for Halloween? That's a good question. I've been hinting to it. I'm working on getting a Biggs Darklighter together. So that is pretty much done. There are some details I could work on to try to make it a little bit better, but the broad strokes are done. Hello. My day was pretty good. Is this my imperfect dream sword? Not exactly. It's a little different. My dream sword is currently locked up in customs somewhere. So that's a problem. I shipped it back to Italy back in August, I think. And then in September, fairly early in September, it got to Italy and then it got stuck in customs. And it has been there ever since. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm hoping I see that sword again. It's been about a month. It's been over a month stuck in customs. I don't know how long they'll hold it for. So who knows? Hopefully it turns up. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I will not be enthused with having to make a Dream Sword 2.0, but if I need to, then I guess I will. I mean, what else am I to do? If that sword gets thrown in the trash because it doesn't get through customs, then there you go, I guess. It's complicated. Do I like the halberd over the billhook? So, I always go back and forth on this. Basically, what I have here in my collection are my two favorite form factors of either. There we go. So I have my favorite style of billhook, that Italian style, and then I have an antique halberd, also in my favorite halberd style. And my favorite between these two, that's a hard one. I'm not sure. There was a point where I would have said halberd, and then there was a point where I would have said billhook. And now I flip-flop. It changes every few months. I'll switch between which one I like the look of more. Notwithstanding that, obviously, between these two individual ones, I care about the antique a lot more than I care about the reproduction. If I had to pull one of these out of a fire, I'm pulling the antique out. But as far as the actual form factor of each, they're pretty much tied for me. How often do I maintain my collection? So there are some people who will oil their stuff all the time. I don't do that. I generally take a policy of oiling things down after I handle them, and that generally does the trick. I go through everything in this collection with enough regularity that it generally keeps everything topped up on oil. I've never had anything sit so long that the oil I put on it wore off or anything. So every now and then I might find a little speck of rust somewhere, and I have to work on that. But for the most part, it's really just I maintain them as I use them. Oh, Sellsword's great. Yeah, we talk. Any crossbows? I have a toy crossbow. I had placed. I need to also follow up on that. I placed an order for a crossbow a while ago, and he keeps giving me the runaround. But that's about how these things go. I do have a toy crossbow though. Oh, hello. Oh, I got questions. Some tips for buying your first cutting longsword, and how do I feel about the words swords? And I Sonic and the Black Knight. I've not played Sonic and the Black Knight. I played Sonic and the what is it? Sonic and the Secret Rings or something. The one on the Wii, whatever that was. Sonic and the whatever rings. And I played that and I hated it. I did not like that game at all. So when I saw Sonic and the Black Knight, and it looked like it was basically the exact same gameplay, more or less, with the addition of like a sword. I was like, I don't want to bother. So I don't actually know what any of the swords look like in that game whatsoever. Now, as far as recommendations for your first cutting longsword, I have been genuinely very impressed with Balor Arms. That's Cult of Athena's in-house brand. It's made by LK Chen. This is not just a plug. It's literally on my wall. 1, 2. Those are both Balor Arms swords. So this is the Balor Arms Kriegsmesser, and then the Balor Arms 15th century German longsword. I haven't gotten anything from Balor Arms that I didn't like, and I find that they are usually a pretty good deal. They pretty much, I think they all come with scabbards, which is nice. You don't always get scabbards. Sometimes, especially the nicer the sword is, the less likely you are to actually get a scabbard with it. So that's always a plus for me, just from a transporting and say, if it comes with a scabbard, then that's a sharp blade you don't have to baby when you're moving it from place to place. You've got something to cover it. So that's always a really big selling point for me. And I've just generally been impressed with Balor Arms options. Outside of Balor Arms, if you want a very, very first introductory cutter, the Cold Steel, what is it? The Cold Steel Man-at-Arms Italian longsword or something to that effect it's not amazing, but it is a good entry sword that works pretty well and isn't as much of an investment as maybe one of the Balor Arms options. So that's a pretty good entry point. And then you won't feel too bad if you mangle it at some point or mess up the sharpening or anything like that. It's lower investment sword, get your practice in, make your mistakes on that sword, and then maybe move on to a Balor or something even nicer than that. Yeah, not doing bare-handing swords in transport. Nope. Yeah, small sword fencing's good. That is. It's, what is it? Yeah, foil epee. It's the shortest removed. Yes, sport fencing is the shortest removed from small sword. So when you're doing small sword stuff, pretty much the only really big difference between them is that small sword usually allows for grappling, while sport fencing is not going to let you do grappling, which is a shame because there are some really cool grapples to do with a small sword, including my favorite thrust, the one where you basically grab their sword arm and hello dog. You grab their sword arm, pass your sword behind your back, and then thrust at the small of your back. I do love that one quite a lot, and it works very well with small swords because small swords are even nimbler, so it's really easy to just flick that behind your back. With a sword like this, you've got all this blade to kind of and mass to try to navigate, but with a small sword, it is so quick and close to the hand. It's you can have it behind your back like as quickly as that, so it's an extremely effective thrust to make, and that thrust is in sport fencing. It's just without the grappling component. So I've seen like Olympians go pop like that through. Usually when they get too close to each other, because they can't grapple, right? They get too close, so they can't. They're trying to get the point in, and they can't. So to reduce their arm, they put it behind the back, and that shortened their sword. So they still have the thrust. You just don't have the cool boom, takedown, disarm aspect of it. Qatar and Pata, I think they're cool. I haven't really done too much heavy thinking on them. Now the Pata I like more than the Qatar though. Let's see here. A beginner at a very least X1. Recommend getting budget beginner gear to start sooner, cheaper, or would I recommend intermediate gear? So I'm tourney ready, don't need to upgrade. So I assume we're talking about like your sort of usual HEMA thing. In that case, I would go for the intermediate gear, which is kind of like what most people just use. It's not going to be, it's going to be more expensive than like the really bottom of the barrel stuff, but it's going to work a lot better for you in the long run. It'll be more worth it. You can sell it. That's the important part. If you decide that you don't like it, you can pawn that stuff off really easily if it's lightly used and it's, the stuff that people actually want to buy. You could probably pawn off a pair of Black Knights, even a fairly well-used pair of Black Knights like that. They would not be hard to sell if it came to that. And then as far as the sword goes, just get yourself, if you're doing a longsword, just get yourself like a Regenier. It is both the entry grade option and also is just really good. It's no frills, but it works. Oh, I didn't know they were working on or at least in talks about a Highlander reboot. I am getting a little reboot fatigue though, I have to admit. I'm a little fatigued on the reboots. But if it's not actually a reboot of Highlander and it's just, some story set in Highlander, that'd be better. I have touched on the swords The Witcher uses. But beyond that, I generally really like the swords in The Witcher, especially their more complicated hilt options. So, there are some that look like this in The Witcher, which I really like. Where to get a lantern shield? Oh, goodness. I'm not actually sure. I've seen people making them. I just can't remember who actually does that. Who actually sells a lantern shield? I know I've seen one. I am drawing a blank. Sword shop might have one. They don't make it. They're a retailer, but I think I've seen a lantern shield on Sword Shop. So that's my best guess, is try Sword Shop and see if they've got one. And then if they've got at least if they have the listing of it, then you could figure out who actually makes it and then go from there. I don't want to know how much that would cost though. I do not normally sell swords. That's not a business I do. I will pawn off swords sometimes. The cloak was made for me. I got in touch with a crafting person with I think they were the reenactment group, and I got in touch with them, and then I commissioned them to make the cloak. Hello. Heavyweight Hussar jacket and pants with pro overlays. What I recommend training? Training in heavy kit, so moving up to harness. Heavyweight Hussar jacket and pants. So I would not buy your Bloss gear intentionally heavy as a training tool for harness, because harness is going to be so unlike Bloss gear that I think that's I personally think that's a fool's errand to try to do that, like to try to simulate that experience. There are ways to do harness stuff to kind of work that with lighter gear. Stuff like, you know, just taping off the mask to reduce your line of sight and stuff like that. But that doesn't require heavier stuff. I would just avoid buying heavier Bloss gear with the assumption that you can use it to train harness. I would just buy normal Bloss gear and then just, you know, tweak it a little bit in the moment that you're trying to do some harness stuff to make it behave more like that, rather than buying stuff that's going to be worse for you when you're doing Bloss. What sword would I recommend for a first sword? That is complicated, but I have one answer that I'm always prepared to give. If you're doing practice longsword, I don't think there's a better first sword than the Regenier standard or shorty, or just get the Regenier fetter. And then if you are, my personal recommendation is that if you are 6 foot or higher, get the regular. And if you are under 6 foot, get the shorty. This is the shorty. This is my wife's sword. But I also use a shorty because I am 5'11". So I'm still under 6 foot. So I use, this is my Siggy shorty. This is the Regenier shorty. They are pretty much peers. The Regenier is a little more blade weighted, and the Siggy is a little more hilt weighted. The Siggy is also heavier. So the Siggy's heavier, but the weight is more in the hand. The Regenier is lighter, and the weight is a little bit further down the blade. They are proportionally pretty much the same thing, but this is cheaper than this. This cheaper, this more expensive. Better first sword you buy when you've been doing this for a while and you just want to spoil yourself a little bit because it has speed holes. Look at that, also pretty. I have considered using my bill hook to take down some foliage. I don't think I've done it yet. There's a branch that has died in one of my trees and fallen off, and it's currently stuck in another branch. And I keep eyeing it, like trying to do the mental math if I actually have enough reach to do it, to go and hook it. What about my clothes? Often thrift stores. This was thrifted. This was thrifted, I think. This shirt was thrifted. These pants were thrifted. The socks were not. The socks were a gift. The suspenders I bought. I'm pretty much entirely dressed in thrifted clothes right now. So, yeah. Oh boy, that one. Let's see. A record of trying to attach and articulate the tassets to the top of the creases. So I would say I think I know what you're getting at, and I can't think of any that I've seen that do that per se. But I'm looking for a good example here. That kind of works. Here, I don't want to make a mess of this. We're just gonna go over here. The best I can think of is, let's see if I can get this over here. The best I can think of is with some styles of Gothic, you will have the cuisses, and then it will suddenly become very articulated in that last portion, and the cuisses will actually go all the way up to the hips. So you'll have just the unarticulated section, and then it just starts to get really articulated through there. But it does not usually attach to the fold. I can't think of any. I can't think of any that attach to the fold though. But that is the closest I can think of to that armor interaction. Maybe I've got. Let me poke through my book. I don't know if this one goes old enough. This is probably not. This is a very good. It's in French though. I don't know French. I always have to pull out a translator. But the pictures are very good. Trying to see if I can find any examples. I think this is too. We don't go late enough. Oh, cast and burst though. These are always fun. Look at that thing. That's a funky armor. I love it though. Yeah, let me try the other book. Oh, what we got here? This is more likely. Hey, look, that hat look familiar? Separate. I guess I should stand like this so you all can kind of see what I'm looking at. Dueling shields. I can't think of any. Again, it's usually going to be a matter of just continuous tacits all the way up. But if anybody can think of one where it's cuisses, specifically solid cuisses that then have a little bit of articulation that actually connects to the fall, please let me know. This is an old book. I'm not sure where you'd buy it now. This is Les Costumes, les Armures et les Armes, something like that. Here, do a screenshot right now. There you go. It's a two-parter actually. So there's the first book and the second book. Here you go. Here's your chance. Screenshot. If you want to go find these books, they're really good. Again, it's all in French, but the pictures are worth it, if nothing else. Okay. I don't have any other book recommendations I have. I'm gonna do this quick little plug. I haven't actually started reading this yet. This is a whole book on just the Shieldhow. He sent this to me to read as a little bit of a review. I have not had the time to get into it. I have been sent too much stuff to work on. I've got this one to review, and then I also was sent. What else? Martin Fabian sent me his new translation of Hans Metal. I've dug into this one a little bit. This one's a menace. Metal is infuriating because he's also in the sort of KDF Lichtenauer tradition there, but he has his own take on everything, and none of it makes sense. It makes sense, but if you go into it with there we go. If you go into it with sort of a Rangek Danzig Lev kind of mindset, these two books talk about the same stuff, more or less, but they flip-flop terminology, which is infuriating Because if you've been reading from this sort of text for a long time, you're going to get very confused very quickly when he starts saying you will do the Krumpau and he's not talking about the Krumpau you know. And then your brain just fries and you're very sad. So this has been slow going because I am having to do a lot of unlearning as I go through it. Real? I don't know of any blind sword masters. I've never particularly heard of any. I prefer playstyle in blade and sorcery. I use a sword and I don't use magic. I play blade, not sorcery. There we go. The dog is deciding that she needs to be in my company. She does this. She likes to just get underfoot. I think it makes her feel better. Yeah, you just like to be under my feet. Oh, I also picked up another book. This one is not for review. This one is just I bought it because it is cool and I wanted it. This, oh yeah, there you go. Totally a lot to tell there. It's Goliath. And this is why it's called Goliath. The dog prefers to duel with just a good old stick. Yes, there was dog armor. Oh, where's David? He's in there. There he is. There's David. And Goliath. David. Goliath. Mm-hmm. You know, if you've been playing around with Vexel, one of my favorites is Myers. What does he say? It's a good. What does he call it? He basically says that it's just a very good universal defense, and it is done out of Vexel. I love this one. I use it all the time. But it works best if you can set it up, because if you just sit here, it doesn't tend to work. It's one of those where if you can do some sort of movement and then pop down into Vexel and basically give them the temptation to come after you, you then go whoa, boom, boom. It's a simple, it's like as basic 1-2 parry or post as it gets, but it's all about the setup. You get down to that Vexel, they cut in, you step with, you're going to be in left Vexel usually, so then you're going to step with your left foot forward. As you step with the left foot, you're going to cut up. This is a very common thing. You can do it with the short edge if you want. Meyer specifically says that you go with the long edge. So you would go 1, and then once you come up, then you would cut back down onto their arm usually. So it'd be 1, 2. And then as you do that, you would withdraw and then cut to close the line and then get out. That's a good one from Vexel. It's just reliable, consistent, very simple. You should be able to pull it off at some point. Or at the very least, you should be able to make the parry out of it. How old was I when I started fencing? I don't know. How old was I when I started fencing? Math. Trying to do the numbers here. 20 or 21? Someone was asking about geometry. The geometry, that's a really complicated subject, but I can maybe briefly show some of the ideas here. So basically, it's all about glancing surfaces. So you want to have shapes in the armor. I guess that doesn't really show it. Here, there you go. So you can see how we have a bit of a prow here. Comes up in a little beak, and we have these slants here. We have a shelf there. We have more slants there, and this sounds just a good basis for thinking about it. So if somebody wants to get at your eye, they're going to hit probably about here, and it's going to go whoop, and this is going to ramp the point. Also, this is catching a little bit because it's blunt. But the idea being, there you go. Yeah, if I actually turn it flatwise, it'll glance better here. See? So when I stop doing that, though, I'm scratching up my poor finish. But you get the idea. It's going to catch, it's going to glance, it's going to pop up, and it's going to skip off that bridge onto something else and then keep going. Alternatively, if it comes down from above, you've got this sort of shelf here, and then it also glances, so it might skip down off of the that top one and just skip potentially down to the bottom one. It might hit and catch there, but then you've got that shelf that's sticking out, which is going to kind of give you some resistance there. This, you can just kind of carry this on to anywhere. You might have something to catch there. This is going to, in this particular moment, it's going to catch into the mail there, but you've got the standard, which is going to be reinforced on top. So you're going to have the standard. Also, you might have a gorget, so that's a whole other thing that I can get to. But you've got 2 layers of mail there, so it might catch into that, or you might have a gorget like over here, and then that's just going to lock all of that down. I have a beetle. The vision's pretty good. It's pretty good. There are ways to use a cutlass with skill. A lot of the training programs for like naval cutlass are pretty bare bones. It's more about teaching them to not be useless than to teach them to be good fencers. They didn't really waste all that much time trying to teach them how to fence really well. They had more important things to learn, like sailing. It's the A5, the new, not the new Beetle, but the new Beetle is what it is. The one, the ones that came out in 2012 and then onward. Mm-hmm. My favorite cold weapon? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do I find that shorter fighters usually prefer shorter swords, or is it counterintuitively the reverse? I find that shorter fighters often gravitate towards longer weapons at first, and then they realize it's not worth it, and then they go back to a shorter sword. There's the long sword to short sword pipeline when it comes to shorter fencers. Have I played any sword fighting games? Which one's the most accurate? Hellish Court. Yeah, Hellish Court looks like actual. Is like of all the sword fighting video games, if you want one that looks like real sword fighting, Hellish Court just kind of actually looks like real sword fighting. Do I own any kettle helmets? I briefly did, but it didn't fit me, so I sent it back. I would love to own a Naginata. That's my thought on Naginata. I would love to own one. I'm not a big katana guy, but I like all the weirder permutations. So I find, which is funny to say because I've somehow come into possession of a couple katana, but I don't find them that interesting. But I do really like Odachi, I like the Nagamaki, and I like the Naginata. There we go. So I love the permutations on that blade style. I just don't like the normal version. Do you do Olympic fencing? Are you really interested in HEMA? Do you think HEMA can help Olympic fencing or vice versa? I think Olympic fencing is so optimized at being Olympic fencing that I don't think you're going to get much like of use from HEMA for Olympic fencing. I think that is so hyper specialized in its thing that it doesn't really benefit from a lot of the HEMA stuff. Like a lot of the cool HEMA stuff that you would learn to do wouldn't be applicable in the first place because you wouldn't be allowed to. So like all the cool goodies that you would get out of the HEMA thing, you just wouldn't be allowed to use. But on the flip side, Olympic fencing is going to give you a really strong foundation that you can bring into that historical space and do very well. I need to catch up to who sent that one. What do we have here? What is the deal with the M1913? It's an American cuirassier point sword. Plus, do you think any bayonets made for practical polearms? What's the? I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's the deal with it is that it's a. I don't have it here. I gave it back to the. I was borrowing it, so I don't actually have it here with me. As a stand-in, pretend that this was a straight blade here. If I just hold it like this, you won't know. You won't know that it's curved. Like, oh, okay. I'll hold it like this, and you won't know it's curved. So, picture a straight blade on this, and there you go. It's basically just a lance. It's a sword lance. There are some swords like the Concierge that really is just a sword lance, but this one's still mostly sword sized. It's just by that shift into World War I, the idea of the cut was sort of losing favor against the thrust again. Thrust or cut with cavalry swords went back and forth, but they never really came up with a definitive answer. They debated that ad nauseum. So at least as far as the 1913 happened, straight blade was in, curved blade was out, and that's just kind of it never really got to be used. So there's not much to say other than the theoretical application of it, of that model in particular. But as far as the value of the thrust for cavalry, that's a centuries-long discourse that you can dig into. Is my armor set complete? No, not really. I don't have sabatons, and this is just a breastplate, not a cuirass. I actually have two breastplates and no cuirass. I have this one, and then I have this one, but no cuirass. I'm working on a cuirass though. I have one on the way. It's being worked on right now. And once I get that Kuros in, it's going to be replacing the other one. I think I'm going to keep, I don't think I'm going to sell this armor off. I think I'm going to keep this suit and I'm going to sell the other one and then use the proceeds from that to help bankroll the new armor and then clear up some space for the new armor to go there. This armor I pieced together from a bunch of different places. A lot of them are actually everything but the helmet and the breastplate are secondhand purchases. So I couldn't tell you where they're from. I bought them off of someone who bought them from somewhere else. I think these were actually completely custom pieces. I think the arm harness was a custom job that I bought off of someone. So that one's even harder to detail. But this one is from Aegis. This is Aegis. Aegis Armory. Oh yeah, the Greenwich armor is gorgeous. Do I have a pair of historical glasses? No. I've thought about getting a pair, but my vision isn't so bad that it's worth it to me to put up with. I don't like the historical glasses. I think they look not good. So I would rather just be partially blind. How many of my swords are sharp compared to blunt? It is a very strong majority blunt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Did you count that one? 22 or 23 blunt swords and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Basically double. So I've got about 11 sharps and about 22 blunts, 11 sharps thereabouts. So yeah, basically I have double the blunt swords. I do have a modern officer sword. That is my one antique sword that I own. My antique. Here, we got to go up for the antique. There it is. What? My antique. Most interesting, most unique sword in my collection. I suppose it'd be the antique that I just showed. That'd be my guess for most interesting and unique. Well, I suppose it's not particularly unique. It was a mass-produced sword. So I don't know. My custom sword that is currently sitting somewhere in customs in Italy would be the most unique or most interesting. Yeah, it would be the most unique one I have because that one was completely custom made for me. Lamellar is cool. My phone has decided to make itself darker. Turn that off. There we go. How does one make such a beautiful collection? The time. piecemeal, buying a little bit here and there, and then also running a YouTube channel does help. YouTube proceeds has expanded the collection considerably. It was not this large. It was not this robust. Yeah, that's a good word for it. It was not this robust before I started the channel. It was still pretty respectable.
I mean, yeah,
it was pretty respectable. But no, it is. I'd probably say it's grown about, what, 3 times as large?
Yeah. Go back to your first few videos.
Yeah, I would need to go back. Yeah, I had the sword wall up. I didn't have the rack full of stuff. I don't know what Law's sword is. Oh, would I? So if I had to pick longsword or saber for tournaments, what would I pick? Easy, longsword. I've never actually competed in a saber tournament ever. Yeah, I have a saber. I play around with sabers. I've never competed in a saber tournament, not once. No interest. I have competed in tournaments where there were sabers involved for like one-handed sword opens. I've done those. So I have competed against sabers, but I have never actually done a saber tournament. Good night. Cheese or butter? Butter, definitely butter. Although cheese is good on popcorn too. You know what? What kind of, wait, are we talking like hot, like cheese drizzle, or just talking like cheddar dusted popcorn? Because that would be, this might start winning. Although I have a slight fixation on buffalo garlic popcorn. That's good stuff. Buffalo garlic popcorn, I love it. Dash Rendar, opinion on him. Cool name. Oh wait, Dash Rendar. Oh, not the character, the big longbow. See, that's what I get for not reading. The character Dash Rendar has a cool name, and he's just a. I might catch flack for it, but I think he's kind of a forgettable protagonist. He's just like we have Han Solo at home, Dash Rendar. I think Kyle Katarn is a much more interesting equivalent. I would say Dash Rendar and Kyle Katarn are basically like the same premise, but Kyle Katarn was better executed than Dash Rendar. Anyway, the person, the channel Dash Rendar, yeah, he's fine. I don't tend to see a lot of his stuff come through, but I've generally liked what I've seen. Comfy coat. Oh boy, the vintage wool greatcoat. Yeah, I'll go get it. That's not very far. I wonder if I can even stand wearing this in here, because I'm wearing my camel hair jacket right now, which is already pretty warm and cozy. There, I've noticed that my videos on this coat are strangely seasonal. I don't know what, like, I know it makes sense. You know, once the weather starts getting cold, people start looking into this kind of stuff. But that's what amuses me, is that without fail, once fall hits, my videos on this coat immediately come back from the grave. They will be my coat videos will be silent all year long, and then fall hits, and every single one of these coat videos just kaboom explodes. It is really amusing to me. Let me actually like button the camel so it looks nicer. Yeah, we'll do a little bit of that, a little bit of this. There. Hi, dog. Hello. Can I help you? Yeah. Yeah, I can. Yes. Yeah, this is a nice. I like this coat. I'm gonna muffle myself here. It's interesting because I haven't actually tried to wear it with the camel yet. This is very warm. I am not going to stay in this very long. It's a little, the camel hair is a bit thicker, so it's probably going to let out the back belt. It's a little too much fabric to be buttoned up with the back fastened like that. Now, if I'm really crazy, a really crazy thing to do would be to do this. There we go. If I ever need to be really, really, really warm. There we go. That's the way to do it. This is very warm. Yeah, I don't want to. How much weight is the coat? So the great coat is 7 pounds. The cloak is 9 pounds. The camel hair is probably like 2 pounds. No, it's probably less than 2 pounds. Maybe? No, maybe it's about 2 pounds. That's a lot of weight. And it's all on my shoulders. Oh, goodness. Okay. Going to put one last look at the coat before I put it away. A gauntlet. I caught a gauntlet. Back you go. I know I caught something there. Ugh. That way. Mm-hmm. I left the sword all the way over here. Just collecting things. Is there anywhere I would suggest to buy a cloak like that? No, because I couldn't find one. I ended up commissioning someone to make one. I was poking around to see if I could find one, but nope. They are not very popular in, I guess, LARP circles. So if they're not popular in LARP circles, and it's not a medieval cloak, yeah, it's a hard design to find. No, I've not looked into that text too much. I prefer Montante or Polearm against the Holder zombies. I think I'd probably go with the Polearm. How to stop hand snipe? Get good. Honestly, like getting good at protecting yourself from hand snipes is largely just getting a sense for when your hands are hanging out and then getting used to pulling them away. There's not really like a magic trick to it. You just have to get a sense for when someone's eyeballing your hands and whoop, pull them away. Is the cutlass just a smaller saber? I mean, I would say so. I think they're just small sabers. That's how I think of them. Or maybe they're dusaks. When is a saber not a dusak? When is a dusak a saber? When is a cutlass a saber? And when is a cutlass a dusak? Interesting questions with no good answer. Why do I think naginata get compared to halberds instead of glaives? Because I think people forget that glaives exist. That's why. What music do I listen to? This and that. A lot of jazz. Some Daft Punk. Yeah, jazz, Daft Punk. Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. That's more jazz side. Thin Lizzy. Put Thin Lizzy over. Wait, Thin Lizzy's not on the deaf. Wait. I feel like Thin Lizzy's we're getting into a triangle now. Jazz, Daft Punk, Thin Lizzy. Fascinating. I am not familiar with the Japanese equivalent to the lantern shield. I'll listen to Dave Brubeck, but I don't go out of my way for Dave Brubeck. More like a Art Blakey kind of guy. I have like a complete works of Lester Young that I really like. It's like a 3-disc album. I've got some Glenn Miller. I like Glenn Miller, but Lester Young gets more. I like more of Lester Young than I do Benny Goodman. I mean, I think Yadigans are cool. More people need to talk about Yadigans. I keep looking for one. I want to get a Yadigan at some point. I would love to have a Yadigan. I think they're really cool. I really like the Gunstock War Club. It's pretty cool as far as Native American weapons go. Oh, I appreciate Hunter Collins. Thank you. Salute. You know. Are straight sabers spadroons or small? I think I guess a straight saber would be a backsword, no? I suppose it'd be a backsword. Or maybe it's a dusak. The answer is everything's dusak if you think about it. It's all dusak. No, I'm terrible at throwing things. I don't embarrass myself by trying. I think I've got some tennis elbow going on. I'm gonna stop holding that because that is teasing my elbow. I need to lay off. Oh, it's almost been an hour, so I'm gonna wrap it up here soon. It's dusak's all the way down. It's nothing but dusaks. I say I need to rest my arm and I immediately pick up another sword. It's all dusak all the time. Yeah, the more I've come along, the more I've subscribed to Meyer's typology. There are only 3 swords. There are only 3. There are only 3 swords in the entire world. There's sword. There's dusak. And then there's rapier. Sword, dusak, and rapier. Those are the only 3 swords that exist in the world. That's it. They're all one of the 3. And honestly, I think he's right. Granted, he never actually claims that there's only 3 swords, but there's, I think the way he breaks it down, it makes a lot of sense. Is it a sword in 2 hands? Is it a sword in 1 hand, or is it a sword in 1 hand that stabs a lot? That kind of answers most swords. You will find any sword can be easily sorted into one of those 3 categories. How would a bird use a sword? Like a dragoon, the Final Fantasy dragoon. I don't think a bird's really gonna. I think a bird's just gonna hold the sword in their feet, and they're gonna fly, and they're gonna pew. It's just a talon at that point. They've just like they're. Well, that could be kind of a fun little pitch. There is like in a world of sentient bird people, that the natural born predators are being fought back against, and they've got talons that they use, and then the prey species develop like swords because they don't have talons, so they make swords, and they learn to fight the birds of prey with their swords. It's getting late. There you go. Yeah, sure, Redwall. Yeah, I was trying to think of it. I couldn't think of the name. There's any way to parry false edge hand snipes to the bottom hand. I'm assuming we're talking about a scenario where you are like hanging out here and somebody's doing the cheeky little like pop thing. And is that what you're talking about? Someone's doing like that number to you, and you're hanging out in long Flugelnort, and they pop underneath. In that scenario, parry with the short edge. I mean, I suppose you could crump it if you see it coming, but usually those things are so flicky that you don't have the time to do that. You would have to anticipate it, because there's no way you're going to outpace. I mean, that's what's so dastardly about those little ones. They're just a little flick of the false edge. If someone's pulling those on you, your best defense is usually just to pull your hands back. That's about the quickest thing you can do if somebody's trying that against you, is just pull them back. I wouldn't try to parry it or anything. I would just pull away from it. As far as looking with the tennis elbow, trying to think of. There is another one. I'm gonna. No, that's gonna be a long edge. Never mind. But there is. I do want to talk about this one because this one is useful. Is if they are sniping for this side, there is. No, that's still gonna be long. But basically, if they come for this one, it can be hard to make this cover in time. So instead, you can just do like a little, basically just do a really small hanging. So instead of doing the full hanging, you just do that. You just hang just a little bit, small hanging. But that's going to parry it with the long edge, so that doesn't technically count. But that's the best I can figure. Now I'm going to rest that arm. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Right, so that's been about an hour. Yeah. So I guess I should wrap it up. Could you football tackle someone? And he is potentially, you might not make many friends like that. I've seen something a bit like that. Usually someone who goes for that gets clobbered on the way in, though. What's a sword technique I have difficulty learning? feel like it's so it's not that I've had a hard time learning how to do the motion. The motion's pretty simple. I have always had the hardest time actually applying Dirk Vexels. I have the worst time doing any sort of under the blade disengagement. It is, I for whatever reason, I'll do them, but I very seldom ever actually capitalize on them. I don't know why. It's such a hang up for me. But yeah, I just dipping under and then completing a thrust or thrust, dip under, thrust, boom. I have the worst time making those happen. For whatever reason, I struggle with going under. I'll go over all day long. But yeah, for some reason, I have the worst time going under. I don't know why. So if you watch my fencing, you'll very rarely ever see me actually like work underneath the blade. I usually try to find some way to get over the blade. I very, very rarely go under the blade. Which feels like a big, now that I'm thinking about it, it feels like quite the omission. I should probably work on that. Oh, thank you, Foulux. Anyway, yeah, I need to, I guess I'll do a last call for questions. Would I ever try reverse grip in a tournament? Maybe. That's something I'd probably pull off against like a club mate. If I was fencing a club mate, I think I'd try it just to be cheeky. It might be my dog. One of my favorite techniques to try to pull off. I'm always looking for, I've talked about this way earlier at the beginning of the stream. I love looking for that behind the back thrust. I look for it anytime I can. If I can get that boom, 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 and just flaunt the win, I will. I love it. It's so fun. Thrift stores. I get the threads from thrift stores. Now I have my cloak. Ugh. Yes. Oh, I almost forgot. I meant to say that was one of the whole points of the stream before I wrap up here. Yeah, I'm going to be at the Carolina Renaissance Festival this weekend. There we go. I remembered because I'm intending to, if it's cold enough, I'm going to wear my cloak. I don't know yet if it will be, but if it is, I will be wearing my cloak, and it will be very cool looking and fancy. Kind of works. Kind of works. Yeah. Might work better if I actually wear the sleeves. Let's see. Something like that, maybe. Unfortunately, the sleeves ended up being very long for some reason. I don't know how we goofed that. These sleeves are very long. But it does mean I can do this, which is kind of fun. They weren't supposed to be like this. This is unintentional. I don't know how we ended up with so much sleeve. Fortunately, that doesn't really matter because I can just do this. A little bit of that, a little bit of this. There we go. Now it's better. There, yeah. But the main thing is the pleats. Look at this. Oh, boom. Favorite fictional hat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does kind of feel like a grad gown. I was thinking like Bloodborne. I was thinking about Bloodborne, the whatever the kind of like scholarly people in Bloodborne wear. This reminds me of that. The wizard people. Yeah, again, I don't know what happened with this. They're so long. Oh, the coat does. Oh, here I go saying coat. Don't catch me on that. The cloak. I'm saying coat because I'm wearing it like one. The weight of it does kind of pull down on the sleeves a little bit, so that might be contributing to the shortness. So that maybe it's just sliding off my shoulders a little bit and it's settling like that, but whatever. Any new games I started on or I'm interested in? A historical hat. I mean, I have a historical. Here, grab my hat and wrap things up. A game that I started recently and I am interested in. I feel like it's still Sonic Crossworlds. Sonic Racing Crossworlds. I haven't actually started any other new games since then, so I guess that's that. Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Ta-da! Now this I think you can wear this cloak with some more modern clothes, but I think the hat is a bit too loud. I think it's a bit loud. I don't think the hat works with a suit. Yeah. Oh yeah. The red might be too much. The red works great with the rest of the outfit, but it's a bit much at the moment. Anywho, I'm gonna wrap things up there. I think I'm starting to sweat a little in this. It's a little hot. No, the name of the hat. As far as I know, this is just like I don't think it really has a specific name. I've seen it just generally referred to as just a tall round hat. That's the best I got because they have tall flat hats and they have tall round hats. So this is a tall round hat. I've never heard of a more specific name than that. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful night. Thanks for joining me.